Hi, I'm Rick Thompson from Inclusion Works in Townsville, Queensland. I'd like to tell you a story, a great story, a story about Rick. It was a Friday afternoon, late in the afternoon, and I received a phone call from a matron of a local aged care facility to say that there was a young man who was living within that aged care facility who was 30 years of age. He shouldn't be there, but his medical needs were well met. But he needed opportunities to be more involved in the community, and she'd only become aware of Inclusion Works, and she was asking, can we help? I asked her to tell me a bit more about Rick, and she mentioned that his health status was very fragile, that he was limited in his mobility and required to use a wheelchair, that he required assistance with his meeting of his nutrition needs, and he also had difficulty in communicating verbally with the wider community. She also mentioned that his expected lifespan was somewhat limited as a result of his condition. This was a situation that was new to us. We had to develop a way of seeing how we could respond to Rick's needs and acknowledge and respect the wishes of the matron to assist Rick to be a valued, contributing member of the Townsville community. So we decided to go and visit Rick at the nursing home, and I had to allocate one of the young workers to join me, to help me along with Rick, to make a decision about whether we had a role to play in Rick's life. So Andrew Bly, one of the community development workers, came with me, and we went to the aged care facility to meet Rick. One can only but be impressed with Rick when we walked into his very small room, comprising of a single bed and a small desk, and comprising of an old computer and a small cabinet of 3 drawers. We noticed there was something unique about the room, and that was every wall was covered with images of motorbikes. But not just any motorbikes, Harley Davidson motorbikes. It was quite clear to us that Rick's passion and his aspiration was to be more involved with Harley Davidson motorbikes. We asked Rick, once we had developed a knowledge and a skill, to best communicate with him on would he like some assistance in being connected with the motorbike community in Townsville. I can't describe the incredible sense of joy expressed in his smile with the opportunity to participate in this new adventure in his life. Andrew, being young and confident and cocky, was also confident to take this further, and he went a-searching in the community for the best possibility. In Townsville there are a number of motorbike groups, but there's one particular group called the HOGS, the Harley Owners Group. Made sense. Rick's passion was Harley Davidson motorbikes. This was the group that we need to go and sniff out the opportunities. Andrew rang Duffy, the Sergeant of Arms of the local HOGS group, and said that he knew of somebody who loved Harley Davidson motorbikes, not just any Harley Davidson motorbike, but the Fat Boy model, and went into all the technical details of that. It didn't take long for Duffy to realise that Rick's knowledge and passion of Harley Davidson motorbikes was worthy of further attention. And he said to Andrew that perhaps Rick can come for a ride with us on Sunday morning at 5 o'clock when they were going off for a day ride. Andrew hadn't mentioned at all anything about Rick's physical fragility and his health status. All he spoke about was Rick's passion and aspiration for Harley Davidson motorbikes. Andrew mentioned quite honestly that Rick was unable to go on the ride because he wasn't well. Duffy answered quite enthusiastically, because of Rick's knowledge and commitment to Harley Davidsons, that perhaps he can be a pillion passenger and come with somebody else. Andrew further elaborated that that wasn't possible also because of his inability to go on the back of a bike. Duffy, interestingly, didn't give in, and what he did was actually suggested a sidecar. This was also not possible for Rick owing to his health status. But the thing to notice here is how the community wasn't giving up once they had discovered the passion and the interest that another citizen shares with them. But he was invited to at least come and meet the other members of the club on Sunday morning at 5 o'clock. Andrew wasn't happy, he's not a morning person. The matron of the nursing home changed the ritual, the nursing roster, to ensure that Rick got out of bed and showered and prepared for that 5:30 taxi that Andrew had to arrange and be prepared to meet, and they went to Queen's Park in Townsville to meet a wide number of varied and very excited Harley Davidson riders. One of the greatest points about this story was that Andrew introduced Rick to Duffy at that particular event, introduced the communication style, and led by stepping back. He asked Duffy if he would invite the other people into Rick's life by introducing them. After a while, it was obvious that they were to move on to their ride, and Duffy asked Rick whether he would give the salute, the official salute, for the Hogs to go on their ride. Rick was somewhat excited about this honour that he was being given, and he gave the salute, to the laughter of others present. So they went on their way, and Andrew came into my office on Monday morning and reported with a great sense of enthusiasm the success of this event. But my comment was, so what? So what? Where was this going? Where was the relationship building opportunity that was going to develop from this one single event that happened in Queen's Park? So we went back to the definition of community by John McKnight, and the answer was there. The question was, who sells Harley Davidson motorbikes, and is there an opportunity there? So Andrew did his research, and research is important in the building of strong communities, and we went and saw Orm Snell at Orm Snell's Harley Davidson shop. And Andrew approached Orm and said, is it possible for Rick to spend some time amongst the machines that he loves and he knows a lot about? Orm was a bit nervous about this. Orm had met Rick on the Sunday and thought he would get a second opinion, and called out the chief mechanic. Andrew had also done his research and had a smile of confidence on his face, because the chief mechanic was Duffy, the sergeant of arms of the club. Duffy thought it was a fantastic idea, but also said that the best time for Rick to come along to the shop was in fact on Saturday mornings, because that was when other members of the Hogs group often dropped in to drink coffee and tell lies. Isn't that a great quote? To drink coffee and tell lies. So Andrew, every Saturday morning, would meet Rick at the nursing home and bring Rick to the Hogs store and assist in the building of a relationship between Rick and the members of both the shop as well as the Hogs. This progressed over time. Andrew's involvement in wishing to let go in the long term invited other members of the Hogs group to assist him in the manual assistance of Rick to move into the shop, etc. This continued on for a number of weeks. Every Saturday morning it was the highlight of Rick's week, and in fact the highlight of Andrew's week too. But after a while I was approached by members of the club to say that they'd like to actually enable Rick to be an official member of the club. But Andrew knew this wasn't possible, because remember, he'd done a lot of research. And the reason being was that you had to own a Harley Davidson bike to be a member of the Hogs. So I said, well, how is this possible for him to be a true official member of the Townsville branch of the Hogs group? and they said we changed the constitution. Now, what does that say about a group's commitment and loyalty to a citizen who shares the same passion as they do? So Rick was inducted, and he was presented with the most magnificent leather vest with all the necessary colours, badges of the particular club. And Rick continued to be a valued contributing member of that club. And over that time, Andrew once again was very subtly moving out of that environment and allowing the opportunity for the club members to take a greater responsibility for supporting Rick within the community. Andrew did that deliberately, intentionally, by removing himself so that people were given the opportunity to be confident, both Rick and the members of the club, and in fact the community. After time, it became quite obvious that Rick had tremendous potential to be an ongoing member of the Hogs Group without a heavy reliance on inclusion workers as a service, including Andrew. So the club came to us and they said, could we assist in giving some advice in regards to communication aids to assist in the building of a stronger interdependent relationship between Rick and the members of the club. In fact, Rick as a member of the club. And we brought in a speech pathologist who assisted in identifying a particular speech aid. This continued on for nearly 2 years. Inclusion Works had removed itself after 12 months, and Rick's participation in the Hogs Group continued. He had drinks on his birthday, on his 31st birthday. The Hogs Group took him out for a birthday celebration, and he returned back to the nursing home at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what happened, but I didn't ask either. Rick was a vibrant, contributing member of the Townsville Hogs branch. Within a period of 2 years from being a member of the Hogs Group, Rick's health quickly deteriorated and he passed away. But he passed away in the presence of members of the Hogs Group and Andrew, who had been requested to be part of that significant moment in Rick's life. A couple of days later, we went to Morley's funeral parlour to attend Rick's funeral. When we arrived, there were many, many shiny Harley Davidsons behind the hearse, indicating that the club had appeared to show their love and respect for their past member. On the other side of the chapel, there were members of Rick's family and representatives from the nursing home. But as Andrew and I squeezed in with the motorbike members, we realised that something had happened here that meant a lot to the members of this club, and that is that Rick Nelson had contributed to building a better club through his gifts, talents and contributions. And this became very evident when Duffy, remember Duffy, the chief mechanic and the sergeant at arms, stood up to give the eulogy, and with tears pouring down his face, spoke about the incredible membership that Rick gave to the club, his love of Harley Davidsons, the Fat Boy model, and Harley Davidson bikes. As Rick's coffin was taken to the hearse and driven out to the local crematorium, Andrew was invited to lead the pack as a gesture of their appreciation of how Andrew had introduced Rick to the club. So when we think of this story, the principles of ABCD become very clear. That the reason why this story was successful is because it was built on the assets of Rick Nelson. It was built on the assets of the Hogs Bicycle Group, the best asset within the community to meet Rick's needs. And it was built on a relationship between Rick Nelson and the members of the Hogs Bicycle Club. It was about connecting and identifying the assets and the passions that Rick had for Harley Davidson bikes, identifying the assets of the best opportunity in Townsville, being the Hogs Group, and finally building on the opportunity for Rick to contribute and to be productive in his relationship with the club, hence creating benefits for all citizens. Goodbye now, and wishing you all the best.